はい、皆さんこんにちは。インターナショナルエデュケーションラボです。本日はこのゲストの方にお越しいただきました。Mr. Matt, thank you very much. Thank you very much. そうです。マット先生イコールノースロンドン神戸の初代校長先生としてお越しいただきました。ここ今図が出てるようにノースロンドン神戸のキャンパス出てます。すごい綺麗な校舎ができるということで楽しみになってます。さあ早速マット校長先生に聞く根掘り葉掘り聞いていくインターナショナルエデュケーションラボ行きたいと思います。早速なんですけれどもいくつか質問を作らせていただきました。まずやっぱりマット校長先生って今とてもお人柄ニコニコしてて私たちも皆さんニコニコしながら撮影してるんですけどやっぱりどんな先生かってご経歴をお聞きしたいと思います。これまでスイスなんでいくつかの国を行ってらっしゃるということでその経歴についてちょっと教えていただけないでしょうか。お願いします。
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked at quite a few schools, so we've got a long time on the on the video. So I currently, as you said, the founding head teacher of North London Collegiate School in Kobe, and I've been in Japan almost 8 months now, and really proud to be leading that school. Before that, I was the head teacher of Geneva English School in Geneva, in Switzerland. And was there for just over 4 years. A fantastic family school overlooking Mont Blanc on the lake on Lac Le Mans. It was absolutely beautiful, and that was a British school, but we had lots of French children. So again, different, like Kobe, different languages being taught. And then before that, I was the head teacher of a fabulous inner city school in London called Chelsea Academy. We were about 10 minutes away from Chelsea Football Club, and it was a fantastic school where our priority was about getting the students into the best universities and getting the best possible results that they could do. And then before that, I've worked at a number of schools across London. If listeners know London, sort of North London and East London, working in different schools. And I've been very fortunate in that in maybe 2012, I joined a program called Future Leaders, and that was set up by the UK government to accelerate promising young people into headship very quickly. And so I was very fortunate in that I was able to be mentored by some wonderful colleagues. I visited America, I visited schools in Chicago to see how those schools were set up. So I had a really interesting career, and I'm really enjoying the last 5 years now in international education.
素晴らしいですね。ちなみにアジアは初めてなんですか？
Yes, it is.
でも先ほどチェルシーの本拠地の近くにいらっしゃってた本当イギリス、サッカーも含めてイギリス文化の個人的にたまらないなと思いながら聞いてたんですけど。
I'm not a Chelsea fan, so I wouldn't say Chelsea was the centre of culture. Although it's very good shopping.
そういうところがイギリス人らしくてとても素敵ですね。そういう実際にですねマット先生クラスになるといろんなところから多分ヘッドハンティングの話が来るはずなんですよ。で今回もアジアに初めて引っ越しされてなぜノースロンドン神戸にされたのか、そこのノースロンドン神戸だからこそできる教育っていうのが多分あったと思うんですけれども、そこ先生の視点がちょっと教えていただけないでしょうか。
Japan is brilliant. Japan is just a fantastic place, and it's really interesting living here and working here and just meeting so many wonderful Japanese people. Whenever I say Japan is cool, everyone looks at me like I'm mad. Like, no, it's not true. But it is, and I visited Japan a number of times and always loved it. I loved the efficiency, I loved the people, I loved how busy yet quiet it was. I loved the way that people interacted and treated each other. And I remember every time I'd land back into London Heathrow after being in Japan, I'd feel sad. I'd miss it. And so I'd always wanted to live and work in Japan. And this opportunity came up, and I'd always wanted to start a school as well. And I talked about Future Leaders, and in that program we we did a lot of intense training. One of the things we did is we built a school from scratch, a made-up fictitious school. And I always really wanted to start a school from scratch. And so the opportunity of starting a school in Japan with a fantastic group like North London Collegiate School, that they're such a brilliant school and so helpful and so supportive and wonderful to work with. And then actually our Japanese partners as well are wonderful to work with. So I feel very blessed and very lucky to be here and to be setting up such a wonderful school.
なんかそう言っていただけると、もう教職員の方とね入りたいと思っている親御さんにとってもなんでしょう、本当心が揺さぶられる先生のお話ですね。
Thank you.
すごい嬉しいですし、やっぱり日本の文化、もちろんそれぞれ国地域によって文化が異なると思うんですけど、やっぱりそういう地域の文化と、その教育システムと融合していくというのが一番ダイナミックなところだと思うんですね。で今回先生が校長先生に就任するにあたって、ノースロンドン神戸が、開校することで、先生がこうノースロンドン神戸で、校長として初代校長として足跡を残せる部分、こういう学校にしたいなっていう、ノースロンドン神戸としてのところと、先生個人としてのこういう気持ちというか、そういうビジョンというか、そういうのがあったらちょっと教えていただけないでしょうか。
That's a really good question, and one that I could talk for ages, but I won't. I think when you start a school, when you lead a school, it's all about the vision of where you're going. It's all about what we're going to do in the classroom, what we're going to do outside of the classroom, how we're going to help and develop our teachers, and we're all aiming for the same thing. We're all ultimately aiming for the children to be happy and the children to get to the best academic outcomes they possibly can, which leads them to university. And if it doesn't lead them to university, it leads them to a place where they can be successful. And I found in the schools that I've led is once you get everyone on the same page, it's very quick and it's very engaging and it's very dynamic, and then people want to join you. They want to join a school where staff enjoy their job. They want to come and work in a school where they know they're going to get better. And I've always had the philosophy as a head teacher that I don't mind talented people coming to join my school for 3, 4 or 5 years and then leaving for promotion. I think that is the mark of a good school. And sometimes parents don't see it that way, but I think it's really important that we take really great teachers, develop them and make them better, and then they can go out and improve other schools. And when I was working in London, it was a real strength of my school there, and that we had loads of talented people, and we'd bring them in and we'd work with them, and they'd do fantastic jobs, and then they'd go off and be head teachers or deputy head teachers, and they'd take what they'd learned somewhere else, and it allowed the system to get better. And I think in Japan there are very few international schools, and so by developing staff and by showing different ways of doing it, all the international schools benefit from it. And I think that can only be good for Japan and Japanese families and international families in Japan. Yeah, it's really interesting. When I talk about international schools, I talk about maybe arrogantly, maybe incorrectly, of premium British international schools. And I realise there are more than that that exist. But in terms of those schools with a good academic track record coming into Japan that have branches all over the world, there aren't that many. And certainly when I was going through the application process for this role, we were talking about it being pioneering. You know, we were the first premium school in Kansai, for example. And that's not being disrespectful to other schools, because there are other schools in that area. But in terms of the model where a flagship school in the UK is building other schools, there aren't that many in Japan.
開校準備を進めるにあたって、日本文化との接点、盆栽であったりとかいろんな面白いワークショップをたくさん開催されていらっしゃるんですけども、その日本文化と、神戸、そしてそのイギリスと、この3つの文化が融合していくところにノースロンドン神戸の面白さがあるのかなと個人的に思うんですけれども、これまでノースロンドン神戸はチェジュ島であったりとか海外にもいくつか学校がある中で、日本のノースロンドン神戸さんとしての特別な取り組みというか、 あったら教えてください。
I think it's a really important aspect of our school and what our Japanese parents are looking for, and I think why we've been so successful is this commitment to the teaching of Japanese language to the same standards as in other private schools and other public schools. And then teaching about culture, and that comes from our founder in that he really wants to make sure that young Japanese children understand the culture of Japan, understand the traditions of Japan, understands the key areas of Japan. And so we're taking that and teaching it in a couple of ways. One, we're doing it through the curriculum. So we're working with external partners and we're looking at, for example, the influence of water in Japan. And some of the children will look at making paper. Because to make paper in Japan you need lots and lots of water. Some children will look at Japan as a whole and where agriculture is based, or where sake making is based, and how that's linked to traditional water routes. So there's areas like that. And then also there's, as most schools do, trips and visits. So taking the children to Kyoto, taking the children to Tokyo, taking the children on different educational visits so that they can see very important places in Japan and understands how they work. So I think there's those two aspects to it, and I think as the school grows and develops, and as the curriculum the curriculum changes and develops, because the curriculum is always changing. There's never a set curriculum. It should always be getting better. We will incorporate more of Japanese culture into the curriculum, more Japanese language, and more cross-curricular experiences. So I think it gives our children and our families a really rich offering. And then we've invited parents to us to come and join us in a trip to Kyoto. We've got parents joining us next weekend for a big bonsai experience, understanding about bonsai and the real deep significance of bonsai in Japanese culture. So those things are really important. And I think it's worth adding that it's not me driving that agenda, because I'm not Japanese, and so I'm fully supportive of it, and I'm supportive of getting the best experts into the school, and then I will use my knowledge of curriculum planning and my team's knowledge of teaching great lessons to take that learning and apply it into a really interesting way for the children to learn.
素晴らしいですね。なんかこうお水のお話が出ましたけど、その水を運ぶというか、なんか文化の中にいろんな要素のなんでしょうね、入ってくるというか、なんか水をつなぐ人とか文化的なものを水の運びのイメージっていうのがすごい個人的に納得できるんですけど。
No, absolutely, and it's celebrating the technological leadership that Japan has shown the world. You know, the Shinkansen that I just got off is a fantastic piece of engineering, of the children understanding that, thinking about the next generation with the maglev train, thinking about building design and building construction and engineering and the sort of earthquake proofing of buildings and structures. Japan is world leading in that. The design around technology and computer games and the imagination that goes into that, manga, that there are so many aspects that Japan leads the world in, and it's how we excite our children to be really proud of that. And even if the children aren't Japanese, if they're Western children or non-Japanese children, I always think it's really important that any child that comes to school in a country has a sense of place of being in that country. So in 20 years' time, when someone says to them, where did you go to school? And they say, I went to Japan, they can actually talk confidently about Japan and the country they went to school in. I think that's really important as well from an international dimension.
なんかこう深いやっぱりその文化のこうきちんと足がつく学校なんだなってすごい感じるんですけども、なんか日本の教育全体にこう与える影響って多分そういうところにあると思うんですね。今後そのノースロンドン神戸が多分神戸って学校がついてるってことはなんかもうちょっとほにゃららノースロンドンほにゃららができるのかなっていうイメージがあるんですけど、そこ聞いちゃっていいんですか今
I think we'd like to. I'd like to have quite a few, but it's not up to me. I'm not the person with the finances. I think it's sensible for us to open our school so people can see it and people can see what we do. We can invite parents into lessons and visitors into lessons. I think that's really important, and just cement ourselves there as being being a fantastic school, a school where children are happy, a school where the relationships between the teachers and children are really good, and that academic quality is there, the quality of teaching is seen as being really strong, and that's what I look forward to in the short term. And in the medium to long term, who knows, it would be lovely to have a number of schools across Japan.
ありがとうございます。